Hello, everyone, and welcome to TP Talks. I'm your moderator, Rebecca Brown, Executive Vice President, Travel and Hospitality with Teleperformance. As contact centers today struggle to recruit, retain, and engage their employees, Marriott International has won the coveted Global Travelers Best Frequent Stay Customer Service Award for 2 consecutive years. To give us some insights into how and help answer some pressing questions, I'm joined today by Shannon Patterson with Marriott International. But before I introduce Shannon, I need to cover a few housekeeping items. First, this webinar is designed to be interactive. You'll see multiple icons at the bottom of your console. If you have questions, as we would love to interact with you, please submit them in the Q&A window. Do this anytime during the conversation, and we will address them during our Q&A session toward the end. You can also access more resources through either the Learn More widget or the Resources widget to the right of your screen. And should you have any technical difficulties, please click on the help link. It's the box that looks like a question mark. Now we're going to kick off with a quick introductory video to the TP Talks webinar series and your host. Now on to our special guest. Shannon Patterson is Senior Vice President of Marriott International's award-winning customer engagement centers, overseeing a team of more than 5,000 associates at Marriott's 20 customer engagement centers worldwide. The engagement centers contribute more than $7 billion in revenue and service more than 65 million customer engagements each year. In her role, Shannon provides transformational leadership to Marriott's global reservation, customer care, and specialty teams, including elite loyalty member support, Office of Consumer Affairs, and social media care. Welcome, Shannon, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Rebecca.
Great. So, Shannon, everyone knows the challenges that travel and hospitality companies have faced over the last couple of years. But through all of this, Marriott has remained one of the top hospitality companies, delivering excellent customer service and continuing to even win awards through it all. Please tell us about Marriott's journey and your strategy that led to this.
Thank you, Rebecca. We are certainly proud of all of our team's accomplishments that led us to be industry leaders. I think it's really important that I start back to 2016 when, as many of you may know, Marriott International acquired Starwood Hotels. At that point, we started a transformation journey to bring the 2 company call centers together, and we rebranded ourselves the Marriott Customer Engagement Centers. We took best practices from each of the companies, but it was also an important opportunity for us to take a step back and to understand top trends in the industry that we wanted to adopt that allow us to create one cohesive organization that would also provide the best and most efficient customer service. Critical to our transformational success was leveraging our newfound scale and capacity to create a consistent global service delivery model. That really allowed us to route calls around the globe, achieve best-in-class call metrics such as average speed of answer or occupancy and our Net Promoter Score, which we watch so carefully. And it also provided a clear career path for our associates. With the service delivery model, we set up our 6,000 agents globally to handle about 50 million contacts by grouping them based on language, contact type, and skills. For example, we look at what brands are they calling from? Is it a loyalty question? And every single new hire around the world starts as what we call a sales and service associate. And after they've mastered this role, they can pick up new knowledge skills to progress to more complicated calls and the opportunity to make more money. We really believe in investing in the associate's whole career journey. Our new hires start off with a robust 4-week training program that covers the core basics of their role, but also shares the importance of our strong Marriott culture. We also have standardized quality assurance and coaching programs to help associates, but also improve our Net Promoter scores. We are continuously looking at our data and challenge ourselves to do better. We are seeing, similar, as I'm sure to many of you on this call, that attrition really tends to occur in the first 90 days. And so the job market being so competitive right now, and with prospective associates pursuing multiple opportunities at the same time, we find them very willing to leave, maybe even before they get to the first day of training. And so we've really focused on things that we can do to help keep our new associates engaged for those first 90 days. We continue to make changes and improvements in our process to help retain associates. And the things that we've found some success with are looking at our hiring and our onboarding processes and training schedules to minimize the amount of time between the application and the day that they start. We've also kicked off a new hire experience that we're calling New Hire 2.0. It's an effort to essentially reimagine the entire new hire experience, from hiring to onboarding to training and to nesting. We're evaluating exit interviews and making actionable changes to incorporate feedback that we're hearing. And for example, our associates are mentioning not being as prepared as they would like to for those real life calls. So we're looking for ways to add more realistic simulations in the coming months. We're also looking at things like possibly breaking up training into modules to be completed throughout an associate's first few months, rather than doing 4 full weeks all at once. And lastly, we're looking at additional support during the nesting period, and then also our manager to associate ratios, so that we can ensure our associates really have the support they need for those initial months in role.
So Shannon, it's clear from all those examples that Marriott is very focused on the employee. I'm wondering, after COVID hit, companies in your industry were laying off people out of necessity. They had to, because there was no customer traffic or revenue coming in. As the world's largest hospitality company and with such a strong people-first culture, tell us what Marriott did to help your employees during that challenging time.
Rebecca, I'm not going to lie, 2020 was truly awful, right? Personally and professionally for so many of us. But like so often in life, there were definitely some silver linings. And I have to share this one story because it's truly probably one of the proudest moments of my career. You know, as I think back, we were a global company. We were watching the impact of the virus in Asia as early as December. And it just never really dawned on us, as silly as it sounds, how dramatic the event was going to be. And so when the pandemic really started to hit globally in March of 2020, our CECs initially experienced just an influx of calls that we couldn't keep up with to handle the cancellation requests. And then in a matter of days, our volumes dropped by like 70%, and there was no work for many Marriott associates. Marriott as a company went into contingency mode, and to avoid furloughing CEC managers and hourly associates, my CEC leadership team and I, with a kind of people-first mindset, developed a bridge strategy that would help keep Marriott associates employed until business came back and would allow us to serve our world, which is a Marriott core value. We knew that there were other companies' contact centers that were shutting down in Asia, and we also knew that there was a need for COVID-specific contact center work. So I reached out to many of Marriott's partner accounts, and we started looking for an opportunity to use our agents and new telephony that we had just set up through the transformation to help maybe another company that needed our help while they had business and while we were waiting for our business to come back. And we actually found that opportunity, believe it or not, 300 miles north of Marriott's headquarters here in Bethesda, when the New York State Department of Labor was looking for help for millions of unemployment calls that were going unanswered. And coincidentally, they were working with Deloitte, who happened to be the firm that helped us with the CEC transformation efforts I mentioned in 2016. And so Deloitte, knowing the caliber of our associates and the technology that we had, helped us broker this deal with New York State. And within 5 days of signing the contract, the CEC stood up a dedicated virtual call center for New York State and took our very first call. This required connecting to the New York State systems, kind of ensuring call routing, purchasing equipment, developing training, and staffing volunteer CEC hourly associates for this opt-in project. My leadership team and I focused on ensuring that while the associates were handling calls on behalf of New York State, the Marriott culture and the core values were embedded into every aspect of the project. And we adapted to these changing times, providing opportunities for our associates and just really making a difference in our community. In the end, approximately 1,000 CEC leaders and associates participated in this project. It not only provided those employees with an opportunity to stay employed, but it also prevented Marriott associates in the core operations from needing to reduce their hours. And the results were phenomenal. We handled over 1 million calls on behalf of New York State, and we completed about 190,000 unemployment applications for New York residents. It has truly been one of those projects that everyone that was involved in still talks about today. They were all personally touched, but we did this survey at the end, and we asked the 1,000 people that were employed working on this project, did you have a claimant say anything similar to these comments to you? Like, I'm glad you picked up the phone, or you're nice, thank you for helping me. And 96% of the associates who participated in the project said that they had people that said all of the above.
Wow, Shannon, that is truly a win-win success story, and really a great example of the extent that Marriott goes to take care of its people as well as the community. So what about when Marriott started bringing staff back after travel started to surge again? Employee expectations had clearly changed. Can you talk about the transition that Marriott had to make to a work-at-home environment and how you've managed to maintain the same culture, that same people-first culture, even with such a huge shift in the employees working at a home environment?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I don't think it ever dawned on any of us, right, that it was going to be so difficult to hire when the business came back, right? The thinking is there was just going to be people waiting to be employed again. And the truth is we had success with remote associates in parts of the world with our tenured associates. And, I'll be honest, when we started to send us U.S. associates home in 2020, it was a purely reactive measure to the global pandemic to ensure that we could protect our associates. And we had no idea that when we did this, that we would be really changing our environment and how we work post-pandemic. So we've embraced the fact that this remote culture is here to stay. And we have really pivoted into a more thoughtful, deliberate approach on how we define our remote strategy and how we hire remotely, how we lead remotely, and how we engage remotely, which is very different than how we had been thinking about remote in the past. So now, out of our 20 centers globally, most of our centers have a remote presence. Our US and Canada centers are about 75% remote. And let me first start off by saying just how proud I am that we've managed to hire nearly 5,000 associates just this year, which is double what we hired in 2021. And I think the key differentiator was when we agreed to start hiring people directly into remote. We have had huge success with this, specifically in certain US markets. And what's also exciting about the hiring is that we're seeing positive trends once we hire these people. So what we've seen is, and this is kind of hot off the presses, training graduation rates in the 2 markets with the most established remote hiring process are 6 to 9 points higher than in the rest of the North America average. We have these nesting graduation rates, which is what we define as kind of 2 weeks post-training. In those same 2 markets, we're 13 to 14 percentage points higher than the North American average for people still being employed in that nesting phase. And then for just associate performance measures, which we look mainly at NPS and conversion, it's largely equal to or better than our North American averages. So we continue to study this, and maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that later, as how we expand our remote hiring into additional markets. But we're thrilled with the success that we've seen there. We also know that the remote model isn't one size fits all, and we've adapted our approach based on the region. So for example, we have a large presence in Cork, Ireland, and we're hearing feedback for more hybrid approaches. In Guangzhou, China, which is top of mind right now, obviously with what's going on in China, our associates really wanted to stay in the center. And then we see living arrangements are not always suitable for working from home in some of our markets. So center by center, location by location, we're really redefining in 2023 and beyond how we want our remote structure to look. And to your question about building a strong culture, we are working with our sites to keep engagement strong. We want our remote associates to enjoy the flexibility of being remote, but we also hear that they miss the social and the best practice sharing element of being together in person, right? It's different when you can lean over and ask somebody a question versus having to reach out, virtually to a manager. So we have several pilots in flight to inform these decisions, including direct remote hiring, which I mentioned. But we're also looking at, does it make sense to do direct remote after doing center-based training? And I know a lot of companies are doing that now. And then we're just revamping the entire new hire experience to determine how to best build that connection with our Marriott culture, making sure that our new hires meet their managers, meet their teams, and understand what we have to offer here. Regularly scheduled engagement events are also important. During the pandemic, we kept up engagement through these virtual events, kind of similar to this. But now associates are really invited to come into the center from time to time. We're doing in-person meetings again, learning forums, social events for coaching opportunities. And we're also testing a new hub pilot where some associates can work almost in an entirely remote environment, but then others where they come in and they have opportunities to do specific trainings and refresh their equipment. I share this as we haven't figured it out, but we're definitely piloting a lot of different things to figure out how to build remote culture and to increase our tenure and stickiness, as we call it, knowing that the world is not going back to in-center, specifically in the US and Canada.
Yep, that's for sure. Thanks for sharing those insights. Certainly, I'm sure your employees appreciate all those efforts. So Shannon, now I want to shift gears a bit from the employee to the customer. We've also seen a lot of changes in customer expectations, not only employee expectations, but customer expectations these last couple of years. And a lot of companies are taking a close look at their CX service delivery model and how to adapt. Can you talk about Marriott's journey around CX, the changes that have come in the last year or two, as well as what you see ahead?
Yeah, happy to. So to level set, our voice contact channel volume still continues to represent the largest amount of volume for us, and it's almost 90% at the moment. And as a result, we've invested significantly in the IVR experience. We started with the premise that customers would generally like to self-service versus have to wait online and talk to someone. And this has been a key part of our transformation, and I think it was also a key part during the pandemic as people were looking for opportunities to get through, as unfortunately the waits were a little bit longer as we were staffing up. Initially, we introduced natural language to better support a variety of customer journeys, but we've recently expanded to both a digital and a visual IVR. With digital IVR, we can provide customers with an embedded link into their mobile phone, which takes them directly to the web page they need to complete their task, and we've seen a lot of success with this. With these IVR offerings, we've contained 18% of our contacts this year, which has resulted in about $20 million worth of savings. I mentioned that we did the transformation, and through that process, we also created what we call external knowledge management, which is essentially frequently asked questions on Marriott.com, and guests can use that to self-service on most commonly asked questions. And we're seeing great success there too. Looking at year-to-date, October 2022, we've seen 10.5 million customer views, and we expect to save close to 300 FTEs this year because of external knowledge management. In the past, I would have been nervous about talking about the labor savings, but I think with the labor shortages, our associates realize that tools like external knowledge management and the IVR, they aren't taking their jobs. These new technologies are giving them breathing room as they do their day-to-day. As we look into next year, our founder, Bill Marriott, famously says, success is never final. And we are currently in the process of transitioning our current CEC telephony and related technology to a cloud-based platform called CX1. This is an exciting opportunity to adapt even more efficient technology that will allow us to simplify current processes and provide a more seamless customer experience and further enable our remote strategy. We're also looking at improving authentication and identification technology that will make it even easier for our guests to do business with us.
So Shannon, with these changes in your service delivery model, how do you ensure that you don't lose that people first culture that Marriott's so well known for?
I feel like I keep quoting him, but Mr. Marriott has always said, take care of our associates and they will take care of the guests, and the guests will keep coming back. And everyone at Marriott really lives by that mantra, and us in the CEC specifically. And with that said, we view the service delivery model that I mentioned earlier and the new tools as an asset to our associates' experience, which in turn improves the guest experience. So as an example, personalization is an important part of our customer engagement and quality assurance process. As customers come through our IVR, we work to identify them and their intent to enable us to route them to the best associate. As we introduce the caller to our associate, we then pass along this information, such as their upcoming stays, their past stays, their Marriott Bonvoy membership level, and more, so our associates can greet them personally. We've also been using WalkMe, which is a tool within our Salesforce-powered reservation system. This virtually assists our associates through complex process flows within our systems, as well as giving them hints and tricks to better utilize their tools. These tools are also free up our agents' time to participate in more training and coaching opportunities, which lead to more career progression opportunities. In 2022 alone, we've had over 1,400 of our hourly associates career progress into expanded opportunities, making more money. I'm so proud of that number, just as proud as I am about the 5,000 associates that we've hired. And while
awesome.
Technology is helping and taking care of these associates, we're also recognizing there are other important factors to keeping our culture strong. Within the CECs, we have our own recognition program, which recognizes top performing associates on a quarterly and annually basis. Associates are nominated by their managers and recognized by their peers for winning, and it's really a great driver, and you feel it when you visit the sites or when you're on these webcasts. But what I'm also really proud of, Marriott has a company-wide recognition program. It's called the Awards of Excellence. It's been in place for decades, and it's really the pinnacle of recognition at Marriott. And this year, we had 2 of those winners out of only 10, and we've had 4 over the last 3 years. And so I think this speaks to not just the culture and recognition we do in the CECs, but the fact that our associates are really recognized across the whole company, which makes them feel tied to something bigger. Our in-person activities range from everything from hosting cloth donation drives, blood drives, and we do internal career fairs for people to excite them about growth opportunities. And we, as leaders in the CECs, really spend time traveling again. Now that the world is opening up, it's been a great opportunity. I've been out on the road. I was out in Mexico City a couple weeks ago. I'm headed off to Cork, Ireland next week. But I get my energy. I think the team gets their energy by connecting. So it's a lot of activity, and I would say that we do it in many different ways to try to meet as many associates in a way that matters to them.
That's great that you've been able to get out there again. That face-to-face time is just so valuable. So next question for you. As we all know, another significant change to the labor force has involved wages. Did Marriott have to increase wages? And if so, to what extent to prevent attrition? And also, was this a U.S. only phenomenon or was it global?
So the short answer is yes. Marriott always reviews market wages on an annual basis to maintain market competitiveness. However, we've honestly found ourselves needing to increase hourly and management wages globally, probably sooner than planned. And candidly, we have plans to increase wages next year as well. The other thing I want to point out is that we know as a company that wages are not the only way to maintain and attract the employee base. And so we've been focusing on improving our communication of the whole benefit package, which includes things like medical and life insurance, leave and adoption benefits. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our amazing travel perks, which is a big fun part of the job. And for our U.S. associates, the company has just launched a whole new robust dollar-for-dollar company match on our retirement savings account, which is compounded every pay cycle, which has been a huge investment. And they're also announcing a new employee stock purchase plan. Again, another nice benefit for our U.S. associates. So while the benefits and wages differ around the globe, I'm so proud to work for a company that always aims to maintain a competitive package for our associates.
Even with these higher wages and some of the great benefits that you just talked about, a lot of companies are still having a hard time staffing to the levels that they need to. Has Marriott experienced this? And if so, what other efforts are you making to hire and retain the right talent?
I'm laughing because I had a leadership team meeting this morning, and we all just kind of paused and knocked wood at how we're finally at the right hiring levels, right? Everything is working well. So it has been a long journey to get here. It's one that I think we will all continue to fight in this industry, right? Trying to keep hourly workers. As I mentioned before, the remote strategy is what we're banking on. This kind of direct remote hiring process is critical in helping us attract talent and hit our hiring goals. And aside from increasing wages and the benefits I talked about, we are piloting things like sign-on bonuses and really focusing on streamlining that internal hiring process. I'm not sure how every other company is, but people just can't afford to wait, 60 days to go through all the checks before they come on. So we're really trying to figure out what can we do to reduce that time so that they don't go take another job elsewhere. We've also seen wins with scheduling flexibility, roles that can be just done on part-time or on weekends. And we also are finding people who are interested in doing specific channels. So whether it's email or chat. And, especially as we are trying to staff back up, we had a lot of success with incentives for working overtime. I talked about that global service delivery model that we put into place. So within our existing associates, we have had huge success in staffing those higher level knowledge groups, so the more complex type of calls and contacts, by allowing associates outside the US to take these jobs. This is a risk that we may not have taken before the pandemic, but as a really good example, in April, we needed to expand our ambassador associates. And we looked to Mexico City for the first time, and we're able to staff up a record number of applicants into the ambassador roles. And the results have been fantastic. In fact, our net promoter scores of this critical Bonvoy members is still strong and even better in some parts of Mexico. Earlier in 2022, our forecast showed that due to the hiring and the recruiting challenges that we were facing in the first part of the year, we were nervous. We weren't sure where we were going to get the staff that we needed. And for the first time ever, we looked into alternative solutions to help close that gap in optimizing staffing. And so we actually are piloting, supplementing some staffing with external resources to help handle some easier call types. My learning, I think all of our learnings are, after the uncertainty of the past few years, I think it's just wise to have a lot of tools in our toolkit to ensure we can keep our associates and guests happy.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So, Shannon, you have provided some fantastic insights today. And as I would expect, we do have some questions from some of our participants. We'll get to what we can here, as we only have a couple minutes left, and we will answer any that we don't get to via email. So first question, how do you make your message heard, make sure that your message is heard and acted upon at the local level?
Great question. So we are very focused on having a global message, especially because our customers are global, but being regionally relevant. And so we spend a lot of time with a communication plan that starts at the site level, the manager level. Then we use huddle guides and try to communicate via different channels, whether it's written updates, newsletters, or videos, so that we're constantly keeping our associates abreast with the key pieces. I think the other key thing that we've learned, as I mentioned, knowledge management, is using that tool to notify all 5,000, 6,000 agents immediately of what's happening has been a huge part of our success, especially during the pandemic when things were changing so quickly.
Absolutely. So let's see here. I think we've got time for one more. How do you incentivize your agents?
So I am proud to say that we have one of the only global incentive programs in our company. And that gets back to the service delivery model. And everybody who's doing that sales and service role is measured the exact same way across the globe, whether they speak, Spanish or English. And we are focused on conversion, right? Making sure that we are booking rooms for all of our owners and franchisees, and focused on net promoter score and focused on average handle time. And so we pay out incentives on a regular basis for our global associates.
Excellent. Thank you, Shannon. So we've come to the end of our time here, and I just wanted to give a quick reminder that an on-demand version of this webinar will be made available in 24 hours. And if you haven't already, please review our resources. They're available in the resources window to the right of your screen. And I just want to once again thank everybody for joining today, and especially thank you, Shannon, for sharing such valuable insights with us today. We truly, truly appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rebecca.